Hey guys, tonight we're strolling into the agora for a bite of ancient Greek fast food. Crispy little fish, barley breads, herb pasties, and watered wine served from bustling cookshops and taverns. It's quick, quirky, and way older than your favorite drive-thru. Before you get cozy, if you're vibing with this kind of strange, sleepy history, tap like and subscribe. And drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And what time is it for you right now? Now ease the lights down. Let the room go quiet. Breathe and close your eyes while I carry you to the stalls and braziers of Athens. You arrive before sunrise, when the marble still tastes like night and sandals whisper over dust-off. Smoke ribbon curls from braziers, olives release their shy perfume, and barley grinds like distant surf. Vendors hum in Doric rhythms, while knives clink a metronome against wooden blocks. Stray dog patrols the fig crates with philosophical restraint and excellent timing. This is where ancient Greek street food wakes the city faster than politics ever could. Breathe it in. You're about to eat like a traveller, think like a local, and nap like a hero. Start with the humble maza, barley cakes pressed by palms that learn discipline from millstones. They're warm, faintly nutty, and dusted with sesame. One bite tastes like thrift with ambition. Honey dish called sesamis crunches softly, a sweet that behaves not shouts. You trade an obol and a smile, and the stallholder throws in a sliver of goat cheese. Breakfast here is fuel, not ceremony. It answers questions your stomach asks sensibly. You pocket another cake, for later, which in this market means in 3 minutes. Follow the crackle to a pan, where anchovies and smelts rehearse their brief careers in oil. The cook flicks brine like punctuation, adds herbs that smell like clean conversations. He quotes a proverb about fortune and hot pans, then sells you a paper cone of brightness. Lemon is rare, vinegar stands in and does the job like a seasoned understudy. Tiny bones argue a little, then surrender. Salt keeps the peace. You lick your fingers and learn a new philosophy. Small fish, big satisfaction, 0 speeches. A brazier next door skewers hiss. Obeliskoi, the grandfathers of everything on a stick. You think it's modern until you see lamb, onions, and a poet's courage turning together. Oregano drifts upward like a blessing. Time remembers the hillside it left at dawn. The vendor fans coals with a shard of amphora, creating wind that knows its place. You bite, and the day finally believes in itself. Charcoal tells truths politicians avoid. File the flavour beside, things you'll miss forever, and try not to look tragic. Thirst in Athens is solved politely, and often never by bravado. A stall ladles watered wine, because grown-ups here dilute impulses and get further by noon. Another offers kykion, a barley mint drink that tastes like chores done early. Oxygala, sour milk, and honey settles the stomach and outruns regret. You sip, and the world's edges sand themselves down to friendly curves. Hydration, you realize, is the city's secret negotiation with heat and hubris. By mid-morning, you drift toward Greek cookshops and taverns, tucked beneath colonnades. They're half kitchens, half theatres, steam, shouting, and bowls that find hands without asking. A lentil cauldron burps wisdom. Fakui tastes like rain stored in iron. Bread trenchers arrive as edible plates, practicality disguised as hospitality. Megiros carves pork with priestly calm, then sprinkles cumin like a closing argument. You understand why lawsuits pause for lunch. Justice should not compete with stew. Class and timetable choreograph. The crowd without raising a voice. Potters eat, early scribes late sailors, whenever Poseidon stops rearranging plans. Women bargain fast before the street starts talking in louder syllables. Slaves run errands with enviable maps in their heads, returning with precise miracles. A philosopher argues with a sausage and loses cheerfully. You learn more by watching elbows and listening to speeches. Hunger writes clearer prose. Coins behave here because prices are choreography, not combat. No ball buys the honest things. Two buy better stories and cleaner pans. Vendors make change with an elegance that shames kings. Was, that's all. Me said, You negotiate softly, like people who plan to see each other tomorrow. A free olive appears when you stop posturing. Generosity likes eye contact. You tuck it away. The markets wink in edible form. Masha Tesco. Hygiene is not modern, but neither is it reckless. It's pragmatic and visible. Bowls rinse in vinegar the way tempers rinse in music. Cats patrol grain with bell credentials. Hands wipe on salted cloths that remember their job. Ladles nap in warm water. Smoke keeps flies philosophical. Posters, pictures, not words, teach rinsing to the impatient. You notice calm where chaos should be. Someone rehearsed this. Even the dog respects the rinse line, which feels deeply political. Ritual sneaks in between transactions and makes them quietly sacred. A sprig for Hestia near the flame, a splash for Dionysus before cups meet lips. This feeds like distant rain. A lyre searches for the wind's favourite key. The baker crosses a loaf. Not piety, just gratitude dressed as habit. You touch the table with your fist and think of home without sighing. Food here is fellowship that learned to balance jokes and duty. If you're travelling, lunch becomes luggage that behaves. Vine leaves wrap anything that needs patience. Goat cheese waits like a small, polite fortress. Dried figs hide sweetness under bureaucratic skins. Almonds vote to keep you upright. Stale bread softens in diluted wine and discovers diplomacy. You pack with a competence that would impress your past self. Supper is now portable, and so is a measure of dignity. By late afternoon, the sun knots itself to the hills, and the market loosens its tie. Yumdance, where the market loosens its tie. Taverns unshutter, lamps find their evening grammar. Conversation graduates from nouns to verbs. You've learned where to stand, what to ask, and when silence wins arguments. Ancient Greek street food has threaded the day together without shouting once. Soon we'll duck behind the counter to meet the knife hands and fire whisperers themselves, ready to see the back rooms where heat has opinions and recipes keep secrets. You slip behind the canvas flap of an agora stall, where the lane's chorus softens to knife on wood. A charcoal escara breathes in little red sentences. Clay balls warm their palms and wait. The cook, part priest, part juggler, places you where steam thinks kindly of lungs. Oil crackles, coin clinks. A vendor calls your hunger by its first name. This is ancient Greek street food backstage. Workmanlike, witty, and faster than gossip. You're here to learn why quick bites last longest in memory. First lesson. The Megarian is choreography, not chaos. Skewers, oboloi, pew like polite soldiers, fish on one, onions and lamb on another. A clay griddle hums. Dough discs kiss it, then leave with grill marks like laurels. Garlic, mash and oregano wait in shadow. Ready to finish sentences, the fire begins. He salts from high like a weather god, then lowers the storm with an olive oil drizzle. You nod, because the pan is doing rhetoric better than any orator. Footwork matters, so do exits for smoke and tempers. Baskets sit windward, waist leeward, and the vinegar dips live where elbows expect them. A jug of oxymol, honey and vinegar, keeps arguments brief and appetites punctual. He arranges wooden trays by destination. Dockhands, scribes, theatre crowd. Every tray returns, every bowl gets rinsed. Routine outvotes inspiration. You realize discipline is the spice nobody brags about, but everyone tastes. Staples keep the line honest, while luxury pretends to be modest. Mazza arrives hot and humble. Artos shows off with an oil-brushed crust. Pocket loaves open like friendly purses for goat's cheese and herb pasties. A ladle of lentil stew to go, says, "You'll make it," and does not lie. Chickpea fritters snap like good punchlines. Fish cakes smell like smart decisions. The cook grins because the queue just converted two philosophers. Your ears learn the city's timetables by stomach. At the port of Piraeus, harbourside stalls feed sailors who pay in stories and drachma. Midtown market kiosks catch metics between errands with a cone of fried little fish. Students live on olives, grapes and opinions, porters on skewers and silence. After the Panathenaea, the lane turns into applause with breadcrumbs. Night vendors take the late shifts so moonlight doesn't go hungry. Seasoning is memory. You can pack for later. A dab of gyros, Greek fish sauce, sparks the tongue like a clever retort. Dill, thyme and coriander drift through steam like friendly ghosts from hillside terraces. Vinegar quiets the oil. Sea salt turns meek smelts into small heroes. He keeps a mortar for coriander garlic paste, and a joke for every second customer. You keep both. One comforts the mouth, the other the miles. Sweets land like truce treaties after savoury campaigns. Honey cakes, placus, exhale. Honeyed steam, sesame bars glint like tiny shields. Dates and figs work crowd control on wandering appetites. A boy threads grapes on a reed and sells them like green punctuation. You chew, and the market edits your mood into complete sentences. Sugar here isn't a shout, it's a benediction that sticks to your fingers. Drinking Greece is etiquette, practicing balance. Oinos meets water, always, and finds its better self in the middle. A clay oinoko pours into a kylix, and the cup warms your palms to reasonable thoughts. If work waits, you choose kykeon barley with mint, humble and persuasive. A posset-like warm cup chases dust from the throat without promising poetry. You sip, and the day stops trying too hard. Money speaks softly when everyone plans to meet again tomorrow. Obols and drachmae chime, but price tokens keep fingers honest at rush hour. Then the fort. Dear, he rounds down for porters, up for braggers, and exactly right for the shy. A free olive appears when you remember his daughter's name. Athens is a village. You count your change like a blessing, and your blessings like change. Generosity's the only advertisement that never needs repainting. Tools have manners, and the room keeps score. Skewers stack by length, amphora rest on their marks. Acantharos retires where lips will find it blind. Aprons smell of olive brine tang and soap. Knives report back with clean faces. Cats certify the grain bells attached for diplomacy. The charcoal smoke ribbons the lane, but never bullies the lungs. Someone rehearsed all this. That's why it looks like luck. Crowds teach you citizenship one bite at a time. Sailors swap weather with metics. Students swap quotes for crumbs. The theatre crowd buys fast and argues slower. They'll review the soup later. A baker from the Artipalaean trades wheat, rolls for octopus bites. Professional courtesy. An itinerant seller whistles 3 notes and sells out of octopus on the 4th. You learn the tune. It's half advertisement, half lullaby. Dusk turns lamps into small suns, and the Capelian into a gentle parliament. Here, Greek cookshops and taverns mix stew diluted wine and news that isn't sure yet. Clay cups tap like friendly hammers. The lane exhale grows audible. You've eaten your way into the city's confidence, and it tastes like cumin and good timing. Tomorrow, the baker will invite you to the communal ovens, where dawn is shaped by hand. Ready to meet the fire before it knows it's famous, or should we tweak the flavor here first? You reach the Artipalaean before the lamps give up, and the street already smells like promise. Flour dust hangs in the air, like pale sunlight rehearsing. Peels slide under loaves with priestly calm. A boy hums while scoring dough, each cut a soft manifesto about how the crust should behave. The communal ovens glow, brick throats clearing for the city's first sentences of heat. This is ancient Greek street food at its quietest, bread becoming citizenship. Step closer. The oven door opens like a polite sunrise. First, the choreography of fire. Brush, rake, test, nod. A bundle of olive twigs hisses into wisdom. Embers get banked like savings with excellent interest. The baker touches the floor with a sprinkle of flour. If it tans politely, it's time. Pans kiss the stone. The peel retreats like a stagehand who knows the plot. You hear the small thunder of trapped steam negotiating with crust. Someone whispers, "Good," and means it with their whole shoulders. Dough comes in families, flat barley cakes for hurry, wheat rolls for ceremony. Travel bread is hard, dry and honest. You dunk it, and it learns manners. Some loaves wear oil-brushed crusts, others dusted with oregano or sesame, like festival confetti. Pocket loaves open, later for cheese, olives, and courage disguised as lunch. A tray for the communal ovens carries neighbours' doughs stamped with household marks. The city will taste different houses by noon and call it unity. The bench is a parliament of bowls, sponge, salt, olive oil in a courteous puddle. Hands fold air into flour until the dough hums back, steady as a drumline. A child counts needs like blessings. The baker pretends not to smile. You palm the dough and feel tomorrow learning your name in gluten. He dusts with barley so the wheat doesn't get vain. Humility, apparently, is a condiment. Now proofing. Linen-lined baskets that teach patience to warm, nervous dough. Loaves swell like good ideas that want grandstand. You listen for the soft sigh when pressed. A woman marks each loaf with a carved seal. House, lane, little fish, tiny vine. Bureaucracy, but scented with olive oil and optimism. You copy the motion and almost earn a wink. A bell outside reminds everyone the sun still intends to show up. Meanwhile, the lane wakes. Itinerant sellers stretch their voices. A hawker promises goat's cheese kinder than your uncle, which is not hard. Another balances dates and figs in shallow baskets, sweet punctuation, full later. From the port of Piraeus, a porter begs 2 rolls for the road that never ends. He pays in obols, gets change in bread ends and goodwill. You realize currency smells better here. Seasoning stations wait like backup singers. Sea salt, cumin, dill, thyme. A garlic mash naps beneath cloth, ready to turn bread into sentences worth eating. Bowls of vinegar dips and oxymel stand by for crusts that want conversation. The baker brushes loaves with a last veil of oil. Chorus humming in herb. You tear a heel, the crumb exhales, and the world agrees to be softer. No speeches, just chew and nod. Hygiene is visible, not theoretical. Basins, vinegar, a rhythm for rinsing. Peels lean clean. Cloths go from bench to bucket with the dignity of uniforms. Cat's bells attached, audit flour sacks, and morale. Ash is brushed like calligraphy. The floor learns to be honest. A clay cup of water warms near the mouth of the oven, for hands that earned it. Even the broom seems to have training. Orders stack like small edible biographies. Students want mazo with honey because philosophy needs sugar to land. Masons ask for travel bread that can survive a pocket and an argument. A grandmother buys rolls for a Capillian cousin, barter travelling under a loaf. The baker's ledger is mostly faces. The math sorts itself. You pay, and somehow yes includes an extra olive. The first batch returns with a bronze chorus of crust. He thumps the bottom, hollow applause, and nods you closer. Dean carries olive brine tang and a rumour of honeyed afternoons. Cracks ladder across the surface like maps to kinder places. He tears one open. The crumb glows like it knows secrets. You burn your fingers and call it tuition. Afternoon trays feature placous and sesame, bars for the aftermarket crush. Children hold sticky treaties and parents accept terms without debate. A young seller threads grapes on reeds and invents a queue. In the corner, a bowl of lentil dough becomes thin cakes for workers in a hurry. The oven keeps saying yes in warm syllables. Even the shadows eat. By dusk you've learned more civic virtue from bread than from a month of speeches. The communal ovens cool with the grace of tired singers. Peels sleep like oars. You carry rolls to where Greek cookshops and taverns are stretching into evening. Dinner will borrow from dawn, crust meeting stew, crumbs sopping up news. If you want, we'll step into the fishmonger's quarter next, the sea's quick bite syllabus. Or say the word, and I'll season this scene a little more to your taste. You reach the port of Piraeus just as the sky is rinsing itself pink. Ropes thud, gulls heckle, oars knock the morning into rhythm. Baskets rise dripping, silver smelts, anchovies like quick commerce shy sardines. Vendors test freshness with eyes, not speeches. The sea does the endorsements. Charcoal smoke begins its ribbon along the keystone lip. This is ancient Greek street food with tide marks. Auctions sound like weather. Short bursts, sudden calms, a decision like thunder. Captain lifts an octopus, its arms writing new alphabets on the air. Someone jokes that it's already composing dinner. Someone else raises 2 fingers. Coins clink. A chalk mark blesses a basket. Work becomes destiny. A boy runs. Salt, knife reads skewers, already fluent in hurry. Your appetite reads the scene faster than you do. Prep tables go windward, waist moves leeward, feet know the lanes. Smelts get dusted in flour that remembers yesterday's tide. Anchovies line up like tiny soldiers and lose with dignity in hot oil. Crackle of oil competes with vendor calls, and somehow they harmonize. Clay bowl warms your palms, vinegar waiting to finish the sentence. Salt wakes everything without shouting. Octopus has its own curriculum. Patience, then heat, then mercy. A cook thwacks it on stone until tenderness signs a treaty. He braises a portion with oregano dill and a spoon of garros. Another he kisses over coals on oboloi. Edges charred, heart still brave. Lemons aroma. Vinegar dips do the job with local authority. You bite and taste distance collapsing. Not every catch meets the pan today. Some are built for miles. Fish are threaded, brined, and laid to sun in disciplined rows. Sailors buy travel rations that smell like olive brine, tang, and plan. Pocket loaves wait to become sensible, sandwiches with goat's cheese. Poetic orders, for the road that argues, 2 cones of fried little fish. He wins the argument in advance. Harbourside etiquette keeps the key from becoming a story you regret. Bowls rinse in vinegar. Boards scrape forward, never back. Clay bowls rotate. Wooden trays return. Cats with bells audit scraps. Flies discover philosophy when smoke stands its ground. A posted picture shows hands water rinse. No words, perfect clarity. You relax because somebody rehearsed all this. Crowds sort themselves without a herald. Sailors eat standing boots, leaking cups of oinos, diluted like good advice. Porters sit on coils of rope and practice quiet victories with octopus bites. Students argue metaphysics while stealing your sardine when you blink. Circulate with figs, grapes and sesame bars that prevent despair. The key becomes a moving picnic with better stories. Seasoning here is cartography of memory. A dab of Garros maps you to childhood. If you're coastal, to courage if not. Coriander whispers green hills into the pan. Thyme brings terraces you haven't climbed. Sea salt does the introductions. Olive oil runs the conversation. A garlic mash finishes sentences. The sea began. You nod like you've been trusted with a family secret. Tools earn names by competence. Dot. The escara breathes in even paragraphs. The griddle hums a low hymn. Amphora squat. Like dependable uncles. Oinoko pull with priestly wrists. Skewers stack by length. The way thoughts stack by risk. Spare Kylix waits for the friend, who always arrives late, but apologizes well. You learn to stand where heat respects you. Money behaves because everyone loves tomorrow. Baubles and drachmae change hands, but kindness pays the last coin. Price tokens keep rush hour honest. A wink edits the total for the hungry. A free olive travels with the bowl. If you remembered a name last week. The key keeps receipts in faces and habits, not just numbers. You realize generosity is the only seasoning that never spoils. By noon, the sun leans harder. Vendors pivot like dancers who know the second act. Fried becomes stewed. Skewers become fish cakes. Pans downshift to patience. Water jugs sweat. Oxymel rescues throats that argued with salt. A Capelian runner snatches trays for the midday crowd under colonnades. Greek cookshops and taverns will borrow this tide and pour it into bowls. You follow the smell as if it suggested your best idea. Dusk will turn the harbour to lanterns and hush, and the sea to rumour. For now, you've learned the key's grammar. Fresh, fast, rinsed, repeated. Your hands remember the warmth of the clay cup and the courage of brine. Ancient Greek street food just taught you to eat like a citizen and think like a sailor. Next, we can climb the theatre hill, where crowds dine between acts and verdicts. Or say the word, if you want this scene salted, oiled, or herbed a little more. You climb the stone steps before first chorus, sandals, tapping the city's heartbeat. Vendor's ribbon, the slope, like bright parentheses, cups steaming, skewers whispering. A breeze carries oregano and limeless vinegar, courage for shy breakfasts. Masks grin from stalls. Comedy selling cones of fried fish, tragedy offering olives. This is ancient Greek street food in its most theatrical costume. You take a seat where shadow and appetite both arrive on time. The hill runs on timing. Cooks conduct intermissions like generals. Act 1 ends, and braziers bloom, red commas in a grey paragraph. A boy fans coals with a shard of amphora, turning wind into an ally. Smelts tumble into oil, crackle punctuating vendor calls in iambic pentameter. Clay bowl warms your palms, while vinegar waits to finish each bite. You learn to eat in phrases, not paragraphs. Bread becomes ticket and instrument all at once. Flat barley cakes arrive, stamped with fig leaves, proof you belong. Wheat rolls split like stage curtains for goat's cheese and herb paste. Travel bread softens in watered wine and forgets its stubbornness. An old woman sells pocket loaves, blessing each with a thumbprint. You keep one for Act 3 because wisdom is portable. Tuas, oboloi, dance between laughter and silence. Lamb with onions hums in cumin. Octopus bites practice brave endings. A pinch of sea salt edits the story. An olive oil drizzle writes the epilogue. You trade 2 obols and a compliment, both required here. Hook nods, a priest of the quick and honest flame. You promise to return with friends who trust your taste. Legends share the aisle with lunch, and nobody complains. A rhapsode quotes a line. A vendor answers with garros and a grin. Actors sip diluted oinos. Voice first, vanity second, then vanish. A chorus member steals a fig and leaves a blessing in apology. The hill decides this is fair law. Even the gulls obey the intermission bell. Vegetable stalls earn applause without asking. Chickpea fritters crackle and puff, airy confidence in golden shoes. Coriander and dill drift through steam like hillside gossip. Lentil stew to go nods to poets who can't afford to faint. You balance bowl and program, both written for your better self. Spill a little, learn a lot. Sweets arrive like encore bows. Honey cakes, tacos, exhale honeyed steam, and children swear eternal loyalty. Sesame bars hold the sun in neat rectangles. Figs smuggle summer forward. A boy threads grapes on a reed. Green punctuation for the crowd. You tuck one behind the ear for luck and sugar. The muses pretend not to notice, then approve. Drinks keep the hills civilized when the drama won. Oinos meets water in a kylix, and the cup teaches restraint. A jug of kaikion comforts throats that argued with dust. Someone warms a posset-like cup near a brazier. Quiet mercy. You sip and watch tempers remember their inside voices. Dilution, you realize, is philosophy with a handle. Money here is choreography, not combat. Obols and drachmae change hands. Price tokens keep noon from forgetting itself. Vendors round down for grandmothers and veterans of last year's reign. A free olive travels with regulars who learned names, not just recipes. You count change by weight and gratitude by smiles. Both balance the ledger before the chorus returns. Etiquette keeps the slope from becoming a cautionary tale. Hands rinse at the water jar. Bowls bathe in vinegar dips between acts. Cats with bells. Audit crumbs. Birds settle for poetry, not lunch. Waste walks leeward. Smoke drifts where lungs want notice. A picture poster. Palm, rinse, cup, return. Out-argues every speech. You relax because someone rehearsed the boring parts. When the sun tilts, the hill softens into a dining room with better acoustics. Greek cookshops and taverns below unshutter for the afterplay verdicts. Crowds slide downhill like warm honey, programs tucked in bread bags. A lyre finds the wind's favourite key. Cups answer in clay syllables. You pocket one last sesame bar for the road that keeps talking. No, atoms. The city nods. You've eaten like a citizen among stories. By nightfall, lamps bead the steps, and your seat remembers your shape. You've learned how Athens eats between ideas, fast, kind, rehearsed. The hill taught you to time hunger to bells and punchlines. You slip behind the est as the last laugh rolls down the stone seats and dissolves into lantern haze. Masks hang like sleeping moons, capes steam where sweat met night air. A boy coaxes breath from a charcoal escara. Clay bowls warm their palms and wait. This is ancient Greek street food after hours, quieter, saltier, strangely kinder. Vendors move like stagehands who know every cue. Knives whisper, oil, thinks in small crackles. You're about to taste how a city feeds its voices when the applause runs out. The Megiros here is a conductor in grease-stained linen, counting beats with his ladle. He stakes oboloi across the coals, anchovy, onion, a brave ribbon of lamb, like lines in a chorus. A shallow clay griddle hums, lullabies for thin barley cakes, meant for one-handed eating. Olive oil, drizzle, finishes sentences. The fire began. Sea salt edits without ego. A mortar murmurs garlic mash and coriander, while thyme drifts through like hillside memory. You realize discipline is the spice no one brags about, but everyone misses. Actors arrive half in costume, wholly hungry voices, guarded like injured birds. They sip winos, mixed with water, etiquette and self-preservation in the same cup. One asks for kaikion, barley, mint, a civics lesson for throats that worked too hard. Anna warms a posset-like cup near the brazier, steam blessing the mask he'll hang. Bowls of lentil stew to go, steady hands, still trembling with lines. The night forgives ambition when supper remembers its manners. Backstage has lanes. The audience never learns. Windward for bowls, leeward for waste. Wooden trays travel in practiced arcs. Vinegar dips live where elbows expect them. A bucket sings the rinse rhythm. Ladle in, ladle out, quiet clink. Done. Cats with bells patrol the crumb frontier. Gulls keep to philosophy on the rafters. The poster, pictures, only shows palm, rinse, cup, return. Hygiene is choreography when words would just get in the way. The Capedian runner slips in from below the hill, breath-writing commas in the cool diatensis. Sathum wholly on. He swaps a stack of wheat rolls for a tray of octopus. Bites charred at the edges. Someone pays with obols and drachmae and a rumour about tomorrow's play. Price tokens clack like polite thunder. Change arrives with a free olive for regulars. Generosity here is the only advertisement that never needs repainting. You pocket the olive and the lesson. For the watch and the porters who keep the city stitched, the menu goes sturdy. Chickpea fritters puff and crackle, golden bravado that survives, patrol routes. Travel bread, hard, honest, softens in watered wine and forgets its stubbornness. A smear of herb, paste, a sliver of goat's cheese, and even the north wind listens. Fish cakes whisper brine without boasting. Barley cakes hold warmth like a promise. You eat standing, and the ground stops complaining about your feet. Down the slope, Greek cookshops and taverns shift into their midnight grammar. Benches angle to the lane, lamps bead the air. Charcoal smoke ribbons without bullying lungs. Sailors from Piraeus trade, weather for skewers, students swap quotes for crumbs. A baker from the Artopolian arrives late with sesame bars that glow like small verdicts. The proprietor rounds down for tired shoulders and up for loud opinions. You learn the city's ethics from a ledger that smells of cumin. Seasonings travel like rumours with better sauces. A dab of garros flickers the tongue awake. Oxymol persuades knees to forgive stares. Dill and oregano drift through steam postcards from terraces you promise to visit. Sea salt keeps the night honest. Olive oil keeps it merciful. Vinegar touches fried fish and turns it from loud to eloquent. You file the flavor under things that outlive speeches. Tools matter more after midnight, when patience is thin and hands are clumsy. Cures stack by length, like thoughts by risk. Peels lean clean, ready to apologize for haste. Amphora squat, where feet won't find them. An oinoko pours like a priest with steady wrists. Clay cups warm palms into telling the truth about their day. The escara breathes in even paragraphs. The griddle hums a low hymn of second chances. Someone sharpened the knives before the moon looked up. Money behaves because tomorrow is watching. A porter lightens his purse and his temper. A chorus girl pays in exact coins and gratitude. Thuok remembers names more than totals. Credit rides home in warm paper. Would you mind? Use your strategy so you can teacher size. Credit rides home in warm paper. Night vendors wink itinerants, whistle their 4-note sales proof, and the street smiles. A free fig travels with the shy. A second skewer finds the guard who didn't ask. Bounds is a village after midnight, and villages keep score in favours. Sweets are ceasefires, placues breathing honeyed steam, sesame bars crisp with good intentions. Grapes threaded on reeds become green punctuation for stories that need shorter sentences. Dates repair courage without telling anyone what to do. A boy sells luck by the handful and never runs out. You tuck a piece away for later, which in this city means soon. Sugar leaves the air gentler than it found it. Near closing the lane exhales, masks cool. Jokes lose their sharp elbows. Bowls bathe in vinegar. Trays return. The rinse song ends on a soft note. You taste the last octopus edge and hear the harbour turning in its sleep. Ancient Greek street food has shown you its moonlit syllabus. Fewer speeches, better listening. If you're ready, we'll follow the night watch toward the baker's door again and catch dawn at the hinge, where embers remember names and breakfast learns to be brave. Prefer a tweak to tone or seasoning before we open the next door. You step under the timbered awning of the capellium, where lamplight gathers like patient gold on clay. A host nods you toward a bench that knows more secrets than the magistrate's chair. Cups stack in tidy ranks. A oinoko rests like a priest between sermons. This is where ancient Greek street food slows down into sentences and sighs. Smoke from a modest brazier writes soft punctuation across the room. You sit, and the wooden table remembers other elbows, other evenings, other news, other news. Rule 1. Wine is a conversation, not a contest. Oinos meets water quietly. 2 to 3 parts. Hosts call, everyone agrees. A kylix warms your palms. A kantharos waits for someone with bigger opinions. The first pour salutes his steer. The second admits the day was heavier than planned. A third only happens if tomorrow can afford it. Dilution keeps the melody. Bravado ruins the chorus. Small plates arrive like different dialects of the same kindness. Olives glisten under olive oil and a shy dust of oregano. Goat's cheese sits in squares, a firm nod to patience and pasture. A bowl of chickpea fritters crackles, golden punctuation that doesn't shout. Fish cakes whisper brine with a dab of garros to sharpen the story. Bretos or flat barley cakes becomes both utensil and treaty. The host is part conductor, part referee, part poet of plates. He watches the room breathe, steering talk from cliffs with another oxymol. A jar of vinegar dips lives where elbows expect it, ready to hush, fried edges. He salts from high edits with cumin or coriander and lets time finish sentences. Knives speak only to wood, coins speak softly to bowls. The mood never climbs a ladder, it can't climb back down. Money works here because tomorrow is irregular. Obols and drachmae chime, but price tokens keep rushes honest. A porter pays exact and gets a free olive for remembering the host's mother's cough. A student pays late. Credit rides home tucked in bread like a folded blessing. Sailors from Piraeus paying weather reports, and a promise to bring octopus next tide. The ledger smiles. Half numbers, half names. Etiquette is simple. Rinse, share, listen. Leave the bowl better than you found it. Cups bathe between pores. Clay bowls rotate like planets with good orbits. A charcoal escara hums in the corner. Never bullying the lungs. Cats with bells audit the crumb frontier. Flies discover philosophy near the smoke. A picture poster. Palm, rinse, cup, return. Does the talking no one wants to do. Clean feels inevitable, because it's rehearsed. Outside, itinerant sellers pass like comets, trailing figs, grapes and sesame bars. The host trades a ladle of lentils for 2 honeyed placues, midnight insurance. A hawker announces, fried little fish, in 3 notes. The room answers in coins. Door keeps a rhythm. Strangers enter, regulars return. Gossip edits itself. Somebody laughs about the magistrate's sandals. Somebody else tops off your water. The city shrinks to a village you can carry in your pocket. Debate tastes better when it arrives on bread. A scribe argues about taxes and loses to a bowl of lentil stew to go. A mason defends the price of stone with a skewer of onion and lamb. A chorus girl quotes Euripides and claims the last fritter by right of meter. The host arbitrates with sea salt and a second basket of wheat rolls. No one storms out. Cumin has already negotiated a truce. Seasonings are the room's memory palaces. Garlic mash translates courage into flavour. Dill and thyme mail postcards from the hills. Vinegar corrects the record. Olive oil forgives it. A sprinkle of coriander turns a cheap fish into a good decision. You learn to nod at the mortar the way you nod at elders. Respect, like brine, keeps its own time. The host watches the weather in faces, not skies. Dusty shoulders mean another jug of flavoured water for the table. Tight jaws earn kykion and a joke that lands like a soft pillow. Too much laughter gets herded toward bread. Too much silence toward cheese. He knows which bench needs sesame bars and which needs less wine. Good keeping is half reading, half refilling. When the lamps breathe lower, the room leans into mercy. Bowls bathe, wooden trays return, crumbs surrender without trial. A last plate of honey cakes offers the evening a decent exit. You pay, and the host slips an olive into your hand like punctuation. Outside, the lane smells of charcoal smoke ribboning towards sleep. Inside you, the tavern's grammar keeps speaking in warm clay syllables. By the time you step back into starlight, you've learned the Capelian's quiet civics. Greek cookshops and taverns don't sell food so much as they rent out belonging by the cup. Wine stays diluted. Tempers stay hireable. Tomorrow stays invited. At dusk the lanes swap sandals for echoes and lamps for little suns. A reed whistle. 3 notes pulls hunger out of doorways like a tide. Baskets swing from yokes. Clay cups nest like sleepy birds. Cats patrol with bell credentials. Gulls argue policy above the roofs. This is ancient Greek street food set to a walking beat. The market loosens its knots and becomes a river. Orcas memorize wind, the way sailors memorize prayer. Routes curve with shade, uphill slow, downhill generous. They place vinegar jars where elbows expect them by instinct. Stops are marked by stories, not signs, and always by light. Coin clinks. Teach the feet when to linger, when to move. A city is a map of appetites that learned manners. First tray, maza tucked warm under linen like a secret. Wheat rolls wear oil-brushed crusts that shine in lamp glow. Pocket loaves open for God's cheese with dill and coriander. Travel bread waits to be dunked, then remembers to be kind. A child buys one and earns a wink he'll keep for years. Bread turns corners into small edible parliaments. Fish finds you before you find it. Salt speaking in short sentences. Cones of fried little smelts crackle like friendly lightning in oil. Octopus bites ride. Oboloi. Edges charred hearts brave as sailors. A dab of garos makes the tongue sit up and listen. Vinegar dips translate shore into city without losing accent. The lane smells like tides making promises they can keep. Legumes carry the late shift on calm shoulders. Chickpea fritters puff golden light as forgiven debts. Ladles of lentil stew to go, steady hands that stacked stones all day. Coriander and thyme drift through steam like hillside lettuce. A wooden tray becomes a quiet table where strangers agree. You learn to hold a bowl and an opinion simultaneously. Swedes end arguments better than orators with perfect hair. Honey cakes, placos, breathe honeyed steam into the night. Sesame bars snap like tiny verdicts in your favour. Figs smuggle summer forward. Grapes threaded on reeds make green commas. Dates whisper that tomorrows can be civilized if you let them. Sugar writes a treaty. Your tongue gladly signs. Drink keeps the moon from making fools of everyone. Oinos watered in a kylix reminds bravado to use its inside voice. A jug of kaikion, barley and mint, travels like a lullaby. Flavoured water, jug sweat sensibly on wooden trays. A posset-like warm cup rewrites dusty throats into softer sentences. Dilution is etiquette with a handle. Athens holds it well. Gear turns patience into speed without becoming noisy. The charcoal escara breathes in even paragraphs. Clay griddles hum low. Clay bowls stack by size. Wooden trays remember every doorway. An oinoko pours like a priest who keeps good ledgers. Amply rinsed ladles nap in warm water between calls. Tools with manners make crowds polite by osmosis. Money behaves when tomorrow is non-negotiable. Obols and drachmae clink. Price tokens keep hands honest at rush hour. Regulars get a free olive and a better joke. Newcomers get exact change and directions to safer alleys. A grandmother pays in coins and blessings, both accepted here. The ledger smiles. Half numbers, half names wholly remembered. Hygiene is choreography written in vinegar, not speeches. Bowls bathe. Peels stand clean. Cloths travel bench to bucket on time. Poster of hands. Palm. Rinse. Cup. Return. Teaches without scolding. Smoke ribbons the lane, but never bullies lungs. Cats with bells audit crumbs. Flies study philosophy near the brazier. Clean looks inevitable because someone rehearsed the boring parts. Crowds sort themselves like grammar finding its verbs. Sailors buy fast. Students argue, porters nod and keep moving. Theatre bands drift uphill. costumes eating skewers between laughs. A scribe trades a proverb for 2 fritters and loses happily. Festival nights braid strangers into temporary families. Footsteps become percussion. Coins keep time. Toward midnight, the river thins, and stall shadows grow thoughtful. Hawkers count trays by touch, not hope, and plan tomorrow's shade. Greek cookshops and taverns swallow the last orders with gentle clatter. You pocket a sesame bar for a road that still talks. The lane exhales. The city listens to its own careful heartbeat. Ancient Greek street. Food tucks night in and promises to wake it kindly. You leave the colonnade with supper balanced like a promise on your palms. Warmth leaks through clay bowls in soft heartbeats against your fingers. Lanterns bead the lane. Sandals hush. A reed whistle retires its 3 notes. Cats with bells escort you like minor officials with excellent whiskers. This is ancient Greek street. Food changing address without changing character. Home is a door that opens to steam, not speeches. First, the logistics. Grace in practical shoes. A wooden tray rides your forearms. Corners tied with braided reed. Bowl's nest, lids pinched with cloth so sauce keeps its secrets. Bread trenchers line the bottom insurance against bumps and hunger. A jug of watered oinos rides inside a woven sling. You walk like a priest of supper, careful and a little proud. Threshold has manners older than the paint on the lintel. You tap the jam twice. Habit or blessing, you don't argue. A basin waits for hands. Vinegar breathes polite thunder. Children chorus the inventory. Bread, fish, fritters, yes, yes, yes. The room tastes of oil lamp and olives thinking. Even the cat asks permission before becoming inevitable. Bread goes first because it knows what to do everywhere. Flat barley cakes become plates that don't need apologies. Wheat rolls split open, like stage curtains for goat's cheese. Travel bread softens in diluted wine, and remembers being generous. Crumbs recruit olive oil. Sea salt edits without making a speech. Someone steals the heel and offers philosophy as collateral. Fish holds court without swagger. Cones are fried, smelts tip into a shallow clay bowl. A small drizzle of garrows turns listening into tasting. Vinegar dips translate harbour into household in 1 sentence. Octopus bites, edges charred. Arrive with a sprig of oregano. You pour. Thanks the way you pour oil. Thin everywhere. Enough. Legumes take the long, low notes of the evening. Lentil stew to go slides into a bigger bowl, steam spelling patience. Chickpea fritters crackle like small victories, reheated by laughter. Coriander and thyme float up postcards from terraces you owe a visit. Bread trenchers mop the last syllables from the rim. Silence appears not empty, just busy. Sweets negotiate peace between appetites and bedtime. Honey cakes, placous, exhale honeyed steam, and the room signs the treaty. Sesame bars snap, a tiny chorus of yes we can. Figs smuggle summer under winter's nose without getting caught. A thread of grapes becomes green punctuation behind a child's ear. Sugar edits the day into a kinder paragraph. Drink is etiquette, you can pour. A kylix takes oinos with water, tomorrow invited to stay. A posset-like warm cup soothes knees that counted too many stairs. A jug of kykeon reminds voices to use their indoor courage. Flavoured water finds the throats that forgot themselves outdoors. You toast the lamp and the hands that carried the night home. Clean-up is choreography, not punishment. Bowls bathe in vinegar. Trays wipe down in calm circles. Lids stack. Cloths drift to the bucket like obedient clouds. Cats audit the floor. Crumbs surrender without appeals. A picture poster, palm, rinse, cup, return, lives by the basin. The room practices tomorrow by cleaning tonight. ... Stories arrive when bowls are light enough to float. Sailor's weather sneaks in with the octopus. The theatre's jokes arrive on Sesame. Water's silence unpacks itself over lentils and bread. Everyone's day gets translated into swallowable sentences. You learn your household again, one bite at a time. It feels like voting with cumin. Counts close in numbers and names. Baubles and drachmae leave the pouch for next week's ledger. Credit is folded into bread for the neighbour who returned your tray. A free olive waits by the door for whoever remembers the baker's child. The city keeps score in favours and rinse water. You sleep better when the mouth smells of thyme. Outside, Greek cook shops and taverns dim their lamps and count spoons by touch. Inside, your bowls cool under a towel like satisfied geese. Lantern smoke writes the final sentence on the rafters. You fold the tray, fold the day, fold yourself into quiet. Tomorrow, the market will wake your feet before your plans. Merci. For now, the house knows you by flavour and is pleased. Dawn finds the temple steps chalk white and humming wreaths bright against goat brown hides. Barley slips from palms like gentle rain. A flute untangles sleep from the air. Priests steady hands. Assistants tie ribbons that believe in good outcomes. Incense climbs the blue like a letter to whoever minds the weather. You stand aside, learning the choreography of reverence and appetite. This is where ancient Greek street food gets its most serious seasoning, ritual time. Thesia moves like a sentence with old grammar. Invoke, sprinkle, promise, light. Bones for the gods, smoke for the sky, meat for the people who keep the city stitched. No gore in our telling, only the hush, the murmured thanks, the measured cots. A priest taps the knife on wood. The crowd breathes in one respectful piece. Some portions stay for altar stews, some go to neighbours by right. The rest will wander toward pans that speak louder than speeches. Runners carry parcels wrapped in clean cloth, stamped with house and altar mark. They take side lanes you wouldn't notice until hunger taught you the map. A Megaros at a nearby Megarian clears space, warms a low, obedient flame. Bowls of oregano, dill, and coriander lean forward like eager students. Olive oil waits for its chance to forgive everything. News outruns the runners. Temple meat, fresh, blessed, fairly priced. At the cookshop threshold, discipline meets heat, and both smile. Skewers, oboloi, thread, bite-sized mercy. Shoulder, onion, a brave leaf. Charcoal escara writes its slow, red alphabet. Clay griddles hum a scent. Salt falls from high like a small snowfall that means it. A spoon of garros corrects the record. Vinegar dips teach humility. What was sacred a street ago is supper now, and still dignified. Queues form with the patience festivals, practice all year. A grandmother buys for 3 households, a porter for the lane that kept him dry. Students compare hymns to Marinades. Sailors hold silence like a cup. Obols and drachmae move. Price tokens click change, returns in clean fingers. Regulars earn a free olive and a joke with the edge sanded off. You learn civic trust, tastes like time, and accurate scales. Bread arrives to make peace between fire and fingers. Otos splits for goat's cheese and temple meat. Flat barley cakes become good plates. Travel bread dunks in watered oinos, softening like a grudge that quit. Crumbs collect olive oil and tell the story back to you. A child steals the heel and is forgiven on contact. The line breathes. The room's temperature learns another word for warm. Inside the precinct, altar stews simmer for those who can't stand in lines. Lentils join the broth. Cumin and bay take the long way home. A priest's assistant blesses bowls with a nod that lands like sleep. Sweets wait nearby. Placius exhaling honeyed steam for the faithful and footsore. Sesame bars snap like small assurances you can pocket. Piety here tastes like patience and clean ladles. Etiquette keeps shrine and skillet from stepping on each other's toes. Hands rinse in vinegar. Knives speak only to wood. Cats with bells audit crumbs. Smoke drifts leeward. Waste walks to its appointed corner without drama. A picture poster, palm, rinse, cup, return, out argues 10 sermons. The hush near the altar becomes a murmur by the pan, becomes a laugh at the door. Order is just kindness that rehearsed. By noon, the procession returns as appetite with laurel memory. Mask makers bite octopus. Choristers sip kykion and save their high notes. A baker, from the Artopolian, swaps wheat rolls for skewers, barter dressed as courtesy. Tepelian runner collects trays for diners who debate softly. Greek cookshops and taverns fold the feast into afternoon. Economics. You pocket one last skewer for the walk that always talks. Seasonings carry the festival home without dropping it. Oregano says hillside. Dill says riverbank. Coriander says someone thought ahead. Sea salt edits. Olive oil forgives. Garos reminds you the sea pays tithes too. A small oxymol soothes throats that cheered more than plan. Your clay cup warms your hands into telling the truth. Memory, it turns out, is mostly flavour with paperwork. Evening unthreads the day, and the precinct exhales like a choir. Bowls bathe, benches sweep, embers bank for tomorrow's grammar pass. Runners count cloths by touch. Ledgers close on names, not just numbers. The last customer leaves with a fig and a promise to return. Above, the smoke thins to a sentence. The sky keeps. Ancient Greek street, food bows to the altar and the stove, and both nod back. When lamps bloom along the colonnade, you understand the exchange. Piety fed the pans fed the city will feed the altar again. Nothing wasted, nothing rushed, nothing left unrinsed. You carry home a roll, a skewer, a quieter heart. Tomorrow, markets will wake early, but tonight the gods and cooks agree on mercy. The road tastes of time, and your pockets smell faintly of smoke. At first, light, the scales wake before the braziers. Bronze pans kiss the air, counterweights line up like disciplined beans. A vendor rubs olive oil into the hinge, so truth moves smoothly. Beside the board, chalked figures, yesterday's tally, a smudge where rain edited a boast. Coins whisper in little cloth mouths, obols soft as peas, drachmae with sturdier vowels. This is the arithmetic behind ancient Greek street food. Numbers in aprons, not scrolls. He lays a catal cup by the vinegar jar, a choinix measure by the barley sack, and a string of price tokens within 2 finger widths of his reach. Measures here are not appar, they're exact, because tomorrow's faces expect today's fairness. Quick test, salt poured, levelled with a reed, tapped twice for honesty. The pan dips, the counterweight nods, and everyone breathes easier. Truth, rinsed in vinegar, is still truth. The queue shortens because trust is faster. Watchmen of the market, the agoranomoi, walk with sandals that remember lawsuits. They don't scold, they observe the rhythm. Poor level show. A hawker grins and flips his weights, so the stamped owl faces the sun. Athena supervising lunch. If a pan sticks, he cleans it. If a weight feels proud, he swaps it. He knows reputation weighs more than bronze and is harder to balance. Coin clinks are applause. Silence, the encore. Prices flex by season, not by whim. After a rough wind, smelts cost a thought more. After a blessed tide, anchovies behave generously. The vendor writes, "Good wind," with a fingertip in flour on the table's edge, a temporary editorial. When the port of Piraeus overflows with boats, octopus becomes democracy on a stick. When the harbour sulks, lentils carry the day. The city learns to read weather in bowls, not speeches. Change counts itself into your palm with the accuracy of a lyre tuner. 1, 2, 3 obols. A token for credit. A free olive for the memory of last week's rain. Drachmae thump with elder gravitas. Obols shatter like children who know the route home. The poorest pay in smaller coins and longer smiles. The richest pay exact and try to tip with opinions. The vendor accepts both, but the coins matter more. Bread obeys measures too. A choinigs of barley becomes maza, divided by a practiced eye. Wheat rolls weigh the same in the morning as they do in stories. Oil is drizzled by habit. 2 counts for barley, 3 for artos, and salt dresses everyone equally. Pocket loaves, priced for travellers, stack by size, like honest promises. When a boy is a half obol short, the scale accidentally remembers kindness. It's the one contraption allowed to lie. Fish is priced where freshness can testify. Sardines are counted by tens smelts, by handful octopus, by arm and courage. The vendor weighs a comb, shakes it once so oil resigns its vanity, then adds a sardine for luck. You protest, he shrugs. Luck weighs nothing, but it buys tomorrow. A drizzle of gyros is never charged. Humility is complementary with brine. In the Capelian cups, learn fractions delicately. Oinos meets water in ratios that feel like good counsel. 3 to 1 for the chatty, 2 to 1 for the day's survivors. The host measures with a practiced eye, then corrects with a cotile if the mood needs arithmetic. Keeps a separate token for those who pay later. It lives under a stone and never gets lonely. Credit here is bread-shaped and paid in time. Festivals test the system without breaking it. When the Panathenaea roars, price tokens multiply like sesame seeds. Ledgers grow as thick as stew. Extra scales appear on borrowed tables. Weights pass from hand to hand with more signatures than a treaty. Yet the ritual remains: pour, level, show, nod. The city eats quickly, pays fairly, and remembers the name of the man who didn't round up on a hot day. Hygiene has measures too. 1 basin for hands, 1 for bowls, vinegar refreshed at the bell's second note. Ladles rest handle out, ready for inspection. Cloths rotate by a rule older than gossip. Bells attached, audit scraps with incorruptible ethics. A poster of palms and cups stands where wind can't argue. Clean is a standard, not a mood. And standards are what money can't buy back once lost. At sundown, the vendor balances his world for the last time. Weights to box, coins to pouch. Ledger to close with a fingernail and a sigh. He counts not only drachmae, but grudges, avoided jokes, landed favours started. A single sesame bar is set aside for the watchman who tipped the table away from trouble. When he ties the cloth, the knot is equal to the day. Firm, square, unboastful. You leave with a cone of fried little fish and the comfort of mathematics done right. Greek cookshops and taverns glow down the lane, their own measures humming in clay and flames. Behind every bite is a balance. Behind every price, a promise. Behind every promise, a person who wants to see you again. Tomorrow, the city fed and counted walks home, lighter, coins cool, scales rest, and dinner tastes faintly of bronze behaving itself. You learn fast that ancient Greek street food isn't only fire and fish. It's what whispers after. A mortar thuds, a pestle grinds, garlic turns from shout to sermon. Olive oil drizzle loosens the story. Sea salt edits it without ego. A spoon of garrows lights the tongue like a small lighthouse in rain. Vinegar dips wait where elbows expect them, ready to teach humility. Flavor, here is choreography. Quiet steps, perfect timing, no accidents. Start with the mortar. Coriander seeds like polite pebbles, cumin with warm, dusty vowels. Add oregano and thyme, hillside gossip that knows when to hush. The pestle persuades, never bullies. The paste becomes one confident color. A breath of dill finishes the sentence you didn't know you were writing. A dot on wheat rolls, turns bread into an argument worth winning. You nod, because this is grammar for mouths. Now the liquid tutors, oxymel honey courting vinegar, until both behave, mixed into sauces. It tames fried edges and forgives bold salt. A ribbon over chickpea fritters makes them speak in softer consonants. Over fish it reminds the sea to mind its manners indoors. In the capellion, a quiet ladle rescues conversations from getting loud. Dilution in sauces, as in wine, keeps tomorrow interested. Gyros deserves respect and distance. Fish sauce, with a legal resume. Drop, not a pour, and suddenly octopus remembers sun on stone. Lentils stop mumbling, smelts finish their own jokes. Barley cakes nod, as if they've been to the coast once or twice. You taste brine. Not bragging, evidence, not rumour. Use wrong, it's a scandal. Use right, it's a signature. Herb pasties travel like reliable couriers between stalls and benches. The Magyrian sends a bowl to the bread seller with a wink. The bread seller sends back crusts, still warm enough to apologize. A fishmonger borrows both and invents a new cone worth gossip. Even the Artipalean keeps a jar for emergency diplomacy. Athens is a village. Jars walk faster than news. Oil learns restraint in shallow clay bowls with smart rims. 2-finger pour for barley, 3 for artos, never 4. A thumb across the lip stops ambition from spilling into regret. Over goat's cheese, oil becomes forgiveness in fluent drizzle. Over figs, it's a love letter that eats like punctuation. You memorize the motion because grace is muscle memory. Acids keep the market honest when heat gets cocky. Vinegar dips wait like librarians with kind eyes and strict rules. Fried, smelts become articulate. Fish cakes regain their thesis. Cabbage slaw in winter learns manners in a single sentence. A splash on onions turns them from gossip to testimony. You learn that sharp isn't cruel when it's measured. Sweet things report for balance duty. After the savoury tally, a flick of honey into mustard seeds writes a gentle rebuttal. Plaukus, those honey cakes, sometimes take a breath of cinnamon air. Sesame bars, brushed with oil, rehearse their snap before curtain. Dates soak in watered wine until they remember the orchard. Sugar here doesn't shout, it concludes. In the Greek cookshops and taverns, cups follow the sauce's philosophy. Oinos, meats, water, like colleagues. Meeting halfway, not rivals. A kylix warms to your palms warm to your better self. A sip resets the palate for dill's second opinion. Another sip helps garlic realize it's part of a chorus. The house keeps a ledger of kindness, not only coins. Vendor stage, mise en vide, before the first customer arrives. Bowls of herbs sit leeward. Acids keep to the shade. Oil watches the door. A chalk line marks where paste becomes portion. Spoons live handle out. Cats with bells audit scraps. Flies discover philosophy near the smoke. Poster, palm, rinse, cup, return, out-argues every speech. Clean is the flavour you don't notice because it worked. Money negotiates with sauce more than with flame. Baubles and drachmae click, but a free olive seals the contract. A token promises tomorrow's jar refill at the same bench. Regulars get an extra dab for the walk that still talks. Students pay exact and learn that cumin costs less than wrongness. The ledger smiles in herbs and numbers. By lamplight, the city tastes like memory with a good editor. Pastes settle, oil sleeps, vinegar waits with patient lightning. You carry a small jar home, careful as if it were a story. Bread, stew, and the day will meet there and get along. Somewhere uphill a new mortar begins its evening drum. And just beyond that rhythm, another appetite is learning to listen. Winter wakes with a dry cough, and the agora answers in steam. Vendors pull braziers close. Charcoal smoke makes soft roofs under the colonnade. Balls of lentil stew to go carry the city like quiet stretchers. Flat barley cakes soak, forgive, and behave. Goats' cheese hides under oil. Hands learn the clay cup dance. Fingers around warmth. Breath back to face. This is ancient Greek street food speaking the dialect of cold. North wind edits menus without argument. Fried little fish give way to fish cakes that hold heat like a promise. Cabbage slaws find manners in vinegar. Dips with cumin and dill. Chickpea fritters puff into golden mittens. Sesame bars become noon's courage. A ladle of kaikion hums barley. Lullabies for shivering jaws. You learn thrift tastes better when it's seasoned with patience. By late winter, rumour of spring rides in with onions and a better mood. New greens tumble across market kiosks, glossy with olive oil drizzle. Mortar whispers garlic, mash and coriander until the lane smells green. Wheat rolls split like stage curtains for herb pasties that brag softly. Sailors bring octopus with sun, still stuck to it in memory. You believe them because brine doesn't lie. During festivals push the city into fast forward. At Dionysia, cups obey dilution, but flirt with excess. Masks grin at Capelion doors. Killick's rims collect laughter, not speeches. Obel's skewers carry lamb and onion through crowds like tidy arguments. Oregano and thyme drift through air brighter than last week's debt. You eat between choruses and learn to keep time with your teeth. First figs arrive like rumours that turn out to be true. A boy counts them into your palm with priestly calm and sticky authority. Honey cakes. Placos exhale honeyed steam that erases 2 mistakes per bite. Grapes wait their month, but already practice dangling from reeds. Vendors mark prices in blossom math. Modest, hopeful, reversible. You pocket 1 fig for a friend and keep 2 for your better self. Summer lays a hot hand on every lid, and the market smiles anyway. Port of Piraeus overflows. Harbourside stalls conduct silver traffic. Cones of smelts crackle like friendly lightning. Octopus trains for charcoal. Travel bread gets bossy until dunked, then remembers its manners. Simul rescues tempers and tongues from the sun's long sermon. Water jugs sweat. Oinos stays watered because Athens is civilized. By midsummer, herbs speak louder than priests. Oregano writes hillside postcards in every pan. Dill softens hard news. Garros appears as footnote, never headline. Just enough to prove the sea. Sea salt edits. Olive oil forgives. Vinegar files the final brief. A clay griddle hums lullabies for thin cakes that carry markets uphill. You learn shade by memory, not by map. Harvest leans in with barley, and the Artopalian grows confident. Marza stands taller. Wheat rolls get a glossy oil-brushed swagger. Communal ovens glow like red-throated choirs before dawn. A child stamps pocket loaves with a vine seal. Taxes you want to pay. Greek cookshops and taverns borrow crusts for stews that owe nobody. You bless the peel and the patient hand behind it. Panathenaic days teach the city to sprint politely. Price tokens multiply. Obols and drachmae sing faster in cloth mouths. Itinerant sellers ride the shade like sailors ride wind. Skewers become traffic control. Clay bowls map benches into dining rooms. A free olive becomes the city's favourite punctuation. You leave full, and somehow more employable. Autumn tastes like smoke that studied rhetoric. Octopus takes the long route, braise, rest, kiss of coal, then tells the truth. Chickpea fritters return in sober gold. Lentil pots relearn their slow grammar. Coriander and bay rehearse winter's opening argument. A new oil, first press, behaves like a shy god in every drizzle. You pour with 2 fingers and a promise not to brag. As nights lengthen, the Magyrian trims flame to patience. Braziers breathe in paragraphs, not exclamation points. Cats with bells patrol crumb borders with winter authority. Lessons keep vinegar fresh at the bell's second note. Clean is seasonal too. A poster of palms, rinse, cup, return, does more work than a decree. The lane nods, rinses, and gets on with being decent. Year's end tastes of inventory and mercy. Vendors count favours with the same care as drachmae. The watch gets sesame bars. The tired get the last ladle without fanfare. You take home a jar of paste that remembers 12 months. Tomorrow, the agora stalls will wake at their usual hour and start again. For now, the city sleeps with bread at the ready and coals that know your name. Before the roosters rehearse, ancient Greek street food is already awake in flower. The Artopalaean breathes like a kiln with opinions, doors blinking, ember orange. A miller's sack sighs open. A scoop measures barley with priestly calm. Water meets meal. Salt nods. Oil watches for its moment to forgive. Palms drum a steady rhythm. Mortar thud. Pestle grind. Bench creak. The room smells like patience learning to rise. Fire is a language. These bakers speak without adjectives. A charcoal ascara hums. Olive wood trades perfume for heat. The peel is a wand that hates showing off and never misses tzumzla. Loaves go in as questions and return as clear answers. A Louvre coughs smoke into pale dawn, where gulls sign attendance. Inside, quiet is the best applause. Divides by touch, not vanity. Maza for the frugal and fast. Toss for the day that plans to be generous with itself. Flat barley cakes wait for oil brush and a whisper of oregano. Wheat rolls queue for stamps. Vine, dolphin, owl. Edible signatures. A boy cuts pocket loaves meant for sailors who eat standing. Crumbs form constellations on the bench, and nobody curses them. Communal ovens yawn open, and the neighbourhood files a petition of trays. Widows bring pans with fig-studded batter. A priest brings sesame and restraint. A street hawker slips in a thin sheet for sesame bars that snap like yes. Tokens change hands. Names do too. Credit is a knot of twine. The oven keeper's ledger is half numbers, half neighbours, wholly remembered. Bread, it turns out, is civic infrastructure that tastes good. Etiquette keeps flame and crowd from quarrelling before sunrise. Basins breathe vinegar. Hands rinse. Cloths rotate like reliable moons. Cats with bells audit crumb borders and file honest reports. Poster, palm, rinse, cup, return. Out argies, 10 speeches at once. Peels lean clean. Ladles nap handle out where elbows expect them. Clean isn't a mood here. It's policy in flour. Seasoning begins before anyone says the word hunger. A bowl of garlic mash waits for oil, the way silence waits for music. Coriander and time-practiced diplomacy over a low clay griddle. Oil drizzle rehearses 2 finger paws. Never flood, never starve. Salt falls from high like small convincing snow. The room smells like a hillside that passed its exams. First buyers speak bread dialects by accent and pocket. Sailors, from Piraeus Point with eyebrows, rolls that survive waves, please. Porters by travel bread, dunked later, until stubbornness loosens its jaw. Newtons split a wheat roll and an idea down the middle. Emetic orders, for the road that always argues, 2 loaves and a smile. Change clinks, a free olive edits the transaction into kindness. By mid-morning, the bench becomes a quiet orchestra of finishing moves. Oil brushes wheat, rolls into gloss. Sea salt edits the ending. Thin cakes kiss the griddle and learn the grammar of brown. A spare loaf is torn to test the day's crumb. It passes. Goat's cheese squares wait to be escorted into pocket loaves. You pocket one truth. Warmth makes better citizens. Backdoor politics. Vendors arrive with bowls and soft bargaining. The fishmonger trades octopus ends for stamped rolls that travel well. A Magyarian borrows crusts for stews that need a backbone. The Capelian sends a kylix back rinsed with a thank you fig. Barter wears its best manners, and nobody writes it down. The city's arteries learn to share without supervision. Flavor clinics happen in the corner for anyone asking nicely. A spoon of oxymel over barley hushes rough edges. Vinegar dips stand by to civilize fried smelts later. Oregano remembers hills. Dill remembers riverbanks. Both remember you. The baker shows 2 pours of oil, enough and too much. You practice the first until your wrist learns mercy. Prices behave because tomorrow is watching. Obols and drachmae count themselves into palms. Price tokens keep rushes honest. Grandmother pays exact and receives a stamp shaped like a blessing. A boy short an obol learns about credit, wrapped in warm paper. Ledger corners curl where steam kissed them. Numbers still stand straight. Honest scales make bread taste. 10% better, proven daily. When heat leans cruel, the oven banks to embers and vows, restraint. Sesame bars cool into tidy thunderclaps. Placus exhale honeyed steam. Wolves line up on reed racks like small, obedient planets. Unra collects baskets for Greek cookshops and taverns downhill. You leave with a stamped roll, a smudge of flour, and calmer lungs. The lane smells of smoke that keeps its promises, and a city that will too. The harbour lifts its shoulders and the ships answer with ropes that sound like old fiddles. Masts scribble the sky. Gulls write footnotes nobody asked for but everyone reads. Brazier smoke threads through tar pitch and wet hemp, softening the edges of work. Vendors stake their spots where shade shakes hands with breeze. Cones, bowls and skewers queue like polite soldiers awaiting orders. This is ancient Greek street food, with salt in its handwriting and hurry in its shoes. First comes the chorus of calls, 3-note whistles, palm-clapped rhythms, names of fish sung short. A boy beats time on an amphora shard, while his mother salts, smelts by feel. Octopus glistens like clouded marble. Sardines wink as if they know the punchline. A charcoal ascara glows steady, the only calm thing in the lane. Oil lifts in a thin breath. The pan learns to speak in crackle. You step closer, because appetite loves confidence. Bread travels under everything like a good road. Flat barley cakes stack warm as pocket maps to the next hour. Wheat rolls flash their oil-brushed crusts and dare you to argue. A pocket loaf becomes a harbour. Fish, onion, herb paste anchoring safely. Travel bread softens in watered wine from a clay jug, kept polite, cool. Crumbs fall. Cats with bells write receipts. No scribe could improve. Fish is just as served hot. Whoever arrived earliest eats freshest. Smelts dive into oil and surface as small thunderclaps of yes. Fish cakes hold together like decent promises. Octopus bites take the kiss of coal. A dab of gyros edits the sea into a sharper sentence. Vinegar dips finish the paragraph, putting manners on brine. Your fingers learn a new grammar. Pinch, tilt, sip, grin. Legumes steady the crowd when the tide of coins gets rowdy. Chickpea fritters puff gold, light armor for tired jaws. Ladle of lentil stew to go convinces sailors to postpone arguments. Coriander and thyme float up as if the hills came to lunch. Bowls stack, wooden trays orbit from brazier to shade and back. Silence visits, just long enough for gratitude to catch up. Seasonings run the dockside like soft-spoken magistrates. Olive oil drizzle forgives sharp tongues. Sea salt keeps the ledger honest. A spoon of oxymel cools, tempers overheated by noon. Oregano remembers slopes. Dill remembers river mouths. Both remember you. Garlic, crushed to a whisper, persuades bread to keep secrets. Vinegar watches from the rim patient lightning, waiting for its cue. Tools keep the music tight. Skewers, oboloi, sorted by length and risk. Clay griddles hum lullabies for thin cakes meant to carry the day. An oinoko pours watered oinos with priestly wrists and no surprises. Clay bowls nest like well-behaved birds, warm at the edges. Ladles bathe between tasks. Peels lean clean, handle out, ready. Even the knife chooses wood over theatre. Money behaves because tomorrow docks here too. Obols and drachmae clink in cloth mouths. Price tokens keep the rush fair. Regulars earn a free olive and the vendor's weather forecast. Newcomers get exact change and directions to safer alleys. A deckhand short an obol receives a cone and a look that says, "Return it in luck." The ledger smiles, half numbers, half names. Etiquette is posted without words. Basin, rinse, pass the bowl, don't block wind. Vinegar jars live leeward. Waste walks downwind like a trained mule. Cats with bells audit crumbs. Gulls keep to philosophy near the masts. A picture strip. Palm, rinse, cup, return. Does the scolding nobody wants to hear. Clean feels inevitable because it's rehearsed. So does kindness once it learns the steps. Crowds splice and rejoin like braided rope. Sailors buy fast. Porters nod once. Students debate seasoning like policy. A stevedore eats standing eyes on cranes and the next swallow. A scribe copies prices into memory better than wax. Two children trade sesame bars. For a joke they'll retell crooked. The harbour approves. Laughter sails farther than rumour. Sweets call truce on the hour's quarrels. Honey cakes, placos, breathe honeyed steam, erasing a minor grievance per bite. Sesame bars snap like tiny treaties with sugar signatures. Figs smuggle shade into mouths. Grapes threaded on reeds become green commas. Dates dunked briefly. Remember orchards out loud. You pocket one to bribe the afternoon into mercy. By late bell, the rush thins to a hum you can fold in your pocket. Vendors count spoons by touch. Braziers bank to patient red. Trays head uphill toward Greek cookshops and taverns, where cups finish what cones began. You wipe your fingers on the paper that kept its promises. The wind turns. Ropes creak, a different idea. Gulls start fresh minutes. If you follow the smell of cumin, the city will show you where the dockside ends and the evening begins. Stone seats hold the day's heat like quiet drums, and the crowd breathes in one long wave. A reed pipe settles, sandals scuff, masks hang from knees like sleeping moons. Between acts, the theatre unwraps its stomach and starts negotiating with appetite. Vendors glide the aisles with baskets that know the steps better than actors. This is ancient Greek street food at its most nimble. Quick bites, soft voices, perfect timing. You lean forward because even your shadow wants a taste. The first tray is bread diplomacy. Wheat rolls glossy with olive oil drizzle. Flat barley cakes ride warm stacked like polite tablets. Pocket loaf opens for a thumb of goat's cheese and a whisper of argano. Crumbs fall into togas with the gravity of tiny comets. A boy balances a wooden tray like a law he intends to pass. You learn that silence pairs beautifully with a good crust. Fish arrives with a salt wink and no apologies. Cones of fried, little smelts crackle like laughter that got permission. Octopus bites, edges charred, rest on obeloid that know their lines. A dot of Garros edits the sea into an articulate paragraph. Vinegar dips Waitleywood so robes. Stay on speaking terms with dignity. Every aisle smells like a rumour you want to believe. Legumes keep the chorus from fainting at the high notes. Chickpea fritters puff gold, easy to eat without offending the muses. Ladles of lentils stew to go, move carefully lids tied with cloth. A drift of coriander and thyme turns stone steps into hillside. You cup a ball in your tunic and pretend you planned ahead. The mask in your lap approves with vacant, tragic eyes. Cups follow the law, even when jokes don't. Oinos meets water calmly. A kylix warms your palms. The oinoko pours like a priest with steady wrists. Dilution keeps the second act from sounding like a tavern recital. For kinder throats, a jug of kaikion travels like a lullaby with barley shoes. Flavoured water jugs sweat on the aisle, democratic and unsheathed. Etiquette tastes like not ruining the play for strangers. Seasonings run the stairs like soft-spoken stage managers. A smear of garlic mash persuades bread to keep secrets. Oxymel corrects fried bravado and forgives it in the same breath. Sea salt edits. Olive oil forgives. Vinegar files the final brief. Herbs dill, oregano, mail postcards from hills you'll swear to visit. You realize flavour is a chorus that never overreaches its solo. Money moves in quiet couplets, obols and drachmae in cloth mouths. Price tokens keep the rush, honest at the horn's second note. A student pays exact and earns a free olive for remembering to whisper. Un dia more? A sailor short an obol gets a cone and a look that says, return with weather. Change lands in your palm like a small well-cast vote. The ledger smiles, half numbers, half names. Hygiene is choreography performed without applause. Basins breathe vinegar by the stairwell. Cups rinse, bowls rotate handle out. Cats with bells patrol, crumb borders like gentle magistrates. Charcoal, escara, smoke ribbons. The air but never bullies. Lungs mortuary, a picture strip, Palm, rinse, cup, return. Does quiet civic work. Clean feels inevitable because someone rehearsed the boring parts. Sweets negotiate a truce between appetite and poetry. Honey cakes, placus, exhale a honeyed steam that erases 2 mistakes per bite. Sesame bars snap like tidy treaties signed in sugar. 1, 2 count. Figs smuggle shade into mouths. Grapes thread reeds like green commas. Dates dipped quickly. Remember orchards out loud. You pocket one for after the 5th moral dilemma. Vendors know the script that the script ignores. They read faces for salt, knees for warmth, silence for permission. A tray tilts toward a widow's hands before anyone asks. A bowl appears when a chorus boy stares too long at the ground. Kindness passes down the row with the efficiency of rumour. You witness a city practicing citizenship at snack speed. Backstage baskets refill in a whispering economy. The Artipalayan sends more rolls. The Megarian dispatches herb paste. A runner from the Capelian swaps empty clay bowls for rinsed ones. Greek cookshops and taverns lean into this brief weather of coins and gratitude. Tools click, ladles bathe, oil waits for its moment to forgive. The bell trembles, final calls float like small kites. When the aulos breathes again, trays retreat like well-trained ghosts. Masks rise. The stone hush returns, the play reclaims its daylight. You lick a thumb of oil from your knuckle and become an audience member once more. Somewhere behind you a cat writes the closing line in crumbs. The second act begins. Your cup sits modestly, watered and wise. And the city fed, but not bragging listens with its best ears. Twilight slides across tiled roofs, and the courtyard changes key. Benches become clean with bright cushions. Lamps lift small suns to the rafters. A runner slips in from the lane with covered bowls and a knowing grin. This is ancient Greek street food, promoted to poetry by invitation. The host nods toward the andron. Sandals stop at the threshold of manners. You breathe. Rosemary, warm oil, and the promise of orderly mischief. The hired Megarian crew arrives, like a quiet orchestra. One carries a brazier, another a clay griddle, a third the season in a mortar. A boy balances a wooden tray of wheat rolls stamped with owls and vines. A jug-bearer shoulders an oinoko wrapped in damp cloth for discipline. The steward clears a corner for rinsing basins and vinegar bowls. Tools face outward, handles clean. Etiquette you can pick up. Wine begins in a crater where reason gets first vote. The symposiarch chooses the ratio. 3 parts water to 1 of oinos, civilized. Calyx passes the stem, a lesson in moderation. The rim, a gentle dare. Acantharos waits for the guest with stronger opinions than sense. You tip, sip and nod. Dilution turns bragging into conversation. Cups learn your hands and behave. Bread opens the banquet like a treaty both sides wanted. Artos splits for goat's cheese and a green sentence of oregano. Flat barley cakes become plates. Nobody needs to apologize for. Pocket loaves. Hide warm olives that shine under olive oil drizzle. Sea salt edits. Every bite without raising its voice. You realize hunger is easier to govern than pride. Fish enters as modest thunder. Cones of fried smelts crackle in shallow bowls, paper whispering against clay. Octopus bites arrive on oboloi edges, charred hearts patient. A spoon's worth of gyros turns tide into testimony. Vinegar dips weight leeward so robes keep their dignity. Your fingers learn theatre Etiquette: pinch, tilt, never drip. Legumes steady the room when laughter runs ahead of breath. Chickpea fritters, puff gold, easy for reclined hands and careful beards. A ladle of lentil stew to go relocates into a larger bowl, steam spelling calm. Coriander floats up with time, hill paths in vapour. Bread trenches, mopware, eloquence overflowed. Silence visits not empty, just busy being grateful. The cooks compose sauces that make arguments unnecessary. Garlic mash softens its consonants under olive oil and a hint of cumin. Optimal threads honey and vinegar through fried edges until they behave. A dill and coriander paste teaches octopus the grammar of restraint. Bowls rotate handle out. Spoons rinse between truths. Flavor rises, speaks, and sits down on time. Games begin in the corner, where bravado stretches its legs. Panda changing soul. Master the sostre has decommoded to my astonished. Cutterboss dish glints. A guest flicks Wineleys at a bronze target. Cheers bounce off plaster, courteous as trained dogs. A second cup arrives. Still watered, still wise. Someone quotes a poet. Someone else quotes the price of olives. You discover wit pairs best with sesame and small sips. Money is quiet, as it should be when pride is digesting. The steward tallies obols and drachma with a thumb that knows tomorrow. Price tokens mark hired trays, lamp oil, and the boy who ran twice. Free olive closes one account. A stamped roll opens goodwill for next week. Credit gets folded into bread and sent home respectfully. Ledgers smile in neat columns and clean cloth. Cleanliness waltzes with chaos without stepping on toes. Basins breathe vinegar. Cups bathe. Cats with bells audit the crumb frontier. Charcoal escara smoke writes soft punctuation into the rafters. Poster, palm, rinse, cup, return. Stands where lamps don't argue. Waste walks downwind like a trained mule. Order tastes like time and shared responsibility. Sweets negotiate ceasefire between debate and bedtime. Honey cakes, tlakus, exhale honeyed steam, erasing 2 mistakes per biter. Sesame bars snap like treaties signed in sugar and good faith. Figs smuggle shade into mouths. Grapes thread reeds like green commas. Dates dipped briefly. Remember orchards out loud. You tuck one away for a thought that needs sweetening later. By the time lamps bow to the hour, the courtyard breathes in one long chord. Bowls nest, trays stack, embers bank their red grammar for morning. The crew slips out to Greek cookshops and taverns with rinsed ladles and full pockets. You stand lighter than you arrived, scented with oil and better choices. Night lifts its hand. The lane answers with soft shoes and cooler air. If you follow the mortar's echo, you'll find where the street takes over again, before dawn. Midnight loosens the laces of the lanes and lets them breathe slower. Lamp smoke makes quiet roofs. The watch bell taps the hour like a knuckle. Cats with bells patrol borders where crumbs once argued. Osier keeps one stubborn eye red as a patient ember. This is ancient Greek street food after the applause, walking on tiptoe. You listen because the city finally speaks in its inside voice. Wash! Watchmen trade routes for bowls and keep the peace with spoons. A vendor warms a thin stew ladle, counting heartbeats, not profit. Flat barley cakes become plates that don't wake the neighbours. Cup of watered oinos remembers manners without a reminder. Fingers learn to whisper. Pinch. Fuss. Nod. Even the cats approve, and they grade on a curve. Downhill, the harbour exhales tar rope and returning stories. Late boats nudge the quay. Gulls file sleepy paperwork. A boy sells cones of smelts to sailors who owe the moon an apology. Vinegar dips stand by, lightning in polite teaspoons. Duh. A thread of oregano persuades the air to taste like hillside. You eat standing, a moving punctuation mark in brine. Sweets are the kind of mercy midnight understands. Honey cakes, placus, keep their honeyed steam like a secret. Sesame bars snap softly, treaties signed in sugar and discretion. Figs smuggle shade into mouths that carried too much daylight. Grapes on reeds become green commas that slow sentences down. You pocket one peace offering for tomorrow's temper. In the Artopolean, dawn begins before it admits anything. Communal ovens yawn. The peal rehearses without witnesses. Dough rises like a rumour that will turn out true. Wheat rolls earn their oil-brushed crusts in amber grammar. Widows arrive with pans. A priest arrives with patience. Bread becomes civic policy. You can butter. Etiquette doesn't sleep. It rotates like the moon. Basins breathe vinegar. Cups bathe. Cloths trade places quietly. Charcoal, Ascara, smoke chooses leeward like a gentleman. Ladles rest handle out, where hands expect honesty. Poster, palm, rinse, cup, return, autarkies yawns. Clean is a lullaby. The city hums to itself. Money whispers too, counting without boasting. Obols and drachmae move in cloth mouths like careful fish. Price tokens mark credit for sailors whose tide was late. A free olive closes one small wound in the ledger. The vendor writes 2 names and 1 promise in flour. Numbers sleep better when they're polite. Sources keep their vows even at this hour. A drop of Garrows proves the sea without raising its voice. Oxymol smooths fried bravado into reasonable sentences. Time remembers hills. Dill remembers river mouths. Both remember you. Olive oil drizzle forgives what salt said too sharply. Vinegar waits like patient lightning, striking kindness, not pride. The soundscape edits itself to nouns you can trust. Coin clink, knife on wood, clay cup warmth, moving palm to palm. Charcoal crackle, reed mat sigh, sandal hush on dust. Vendor calls demoted to murmurs that still find you. The lane's echo is shorter, but every step lands true. You learn that quiet is a flavour. Night students trade citations for chickpeas and fewer opinions. A widow counts olives into a pouch with priestly calm. 2 porters share a bowl and postpone an argument gracefully. A scribe buys a sesame bar and remembers to be mortal. Greek cookshops and taverns dim lamps, but keep advice warm. You nod, because wisdom tastes like cumin when it's ready. The first rooster clears his throat. The sky folds back a corner. Bakers stamp pocket loaves. Fishmongers rehearse their salt jokes. A runner balances trays towards streets that remember being hungry. The city stretches. Coins, ropes, spoons, shoulders, and believes in breakfast. What began in a whisper is ready to speak in steam. You follow the mortar's distant drum toward the new sentences of day. By the time the bell tells truth to rooftops, you know the map. After hours fed the watch, the boats, the future, dough. Ancient Greek street food tucked the night in and set the table for morning. Embers bank, ledgers smile, cats sign off on crumb patrol. Your hands smell of oil and better choices. Somewhere, a vendor repeats the quiet promise. See you at first light. When the lamps thin and the agora exhales, you can still hear the day in tiny echoes. Coin clink, knife on wood, the soft hush of sandals. Bread racks cool like obedient planets. Braziers bank their last red commas. What looked like simple bites, smelts in paper, maza under oil, sesame bars that snapped like yes, was really a city remembering how to be gentle with itself. You walked a long arc from altar smoke to Magharian crackle, from harbour wind to capellium cups, and learned the oldest civic lesson. Flavour is trust made edible. Honest scales. Watered wine. Demi. A free olive when the math was tight. Clean hands at the basin where vinegar breathed polite thunder. None of it loud. All of it binding. Hold that cadence. The clay cup warming your palms, the olive oil for giving sharp corners, the whisper of oregano, and Dill writing hillside postcards in the steam. These are not just tastes. They're instructions on how to live slower, kinder, truer, how to cheat a little noise out of a noisy world. If tonight gave you a calmer mind or a hungrier curiosity, pass it on. Share this story with someone who could use a warm lane and a kinder ledger. And tell me in the comments, which stall would you stop at first? Fish cakes, chickpea fritters, octopus on oboloi, or honey cakes still breathing honeyed steam? If you'd like more journeys like this, the soft stuff of history that lulls and lights at once, tap subscribe and ring the bell so the next episode finds you right on time. Your light keeps the braziers glowing. Your share keeps the stalls busy. Your words in the comments keep the agora alive. Close your eyes now. Let the charcoal fade to punctuation, the cats with bells finish their quiet audit, and the dough in the Artopolian rise into tomorrow. You carried the market home. It will keep you warm till morning.